Hi everybody, my name is LeeSandra, Leesandra. So today we're going to be making a black bean, honey nut, and kale chili. I'm gonna start off showing you this cute little guy. This is a honey nut. I peeled him a little bit so that you could kind of see what the inside of the flesh looks like, but the outside is like a lighter orange or pale color, and it's really easy to peel. One of the participants today asked how easy it is. It's this easy. So you just kind of peel it, and don't worry sometimes if you don't quite see the orange color. The more you peel it, the more the orange color will show through. So you just kind of want to make sure you get all that off. I know that there are people who eat the skin. Some people do, some people don't have a problem with it. If you were roasting this, you could roast it in the skin as well. But because we're preparing a chili today, we're going to just take the peel off. Okay, so my pot is getting hot. Peel it a little bit. So what I'm going to show you how to do is to cut this. I'm just going to take off this main stem area, right? And you just kind of want to give yourself a flat surface on either side. Okay, once you have a flat surface, you can kind of place the squash this way. You can cut straight down with your knife on either side, and then you'll be able to cut the squash in half. And I'm going to use the side of a tablespoon to scoop out the inside. But I mean, you can use any kind of spoon you want, as long as you just scoop the inside out. So we have all of these scooped out, and we're just gonna put them in like 1-inch cubes. So we're gonna go across. What I like to do is just go straight across. And like I said, I'm working with a smaller knife here, but you just kind of want to make sure that you're cutting the butternut squash the same size so that it all cooks kind of even. Some pieces might be a little odd shaped than others because of the inside of the squash shape. But for the most part, you want to be 1 inch in cubes. So some of the other items that we're working with today are black beans, and you can get those from your local grocery store or supermarket. I'm going to keep prepping that, but in the meantime, I'm just going to press on this garlic. This garlic is from the farm as well. They had the garlic curing. It's actually is above your head still, so you can see the garlic drying up there. So what I'm doing is actually I'm just pressing on the garlic, because when you press on the garlic, it kind of breaks the outer shell. I'm going to put some olive oil. This is extra virgin. We're going to use about 4 tablespoons because we're doubling the recipe a little bit. We're going to put onions and garlic in this pan to sweat a little bit. So the onions that we have are from the garden as well. We're using red because that's what we have here. I'm trying to see how fine I can get this garlic with this knife. So we also have some other ingredients in this chili. What do you guys know about like chili, different Tex-Mex type chilies? What's the base for a Tex-Mex type of chili? Tomatoes, right? So this chili is going to be tomato based, but you could easily turn it into a different base if you don't like tomatoes. You can use red pepper, and you can modify and use red pepper and puree it. So instead of having, I mean, you can still get that red color, but you'll be using red pepper instead of tomatoes. You can also use eggplant. Take the seeds out, blend it up. People like eggplant. So I'm adding the garlic. Right now we're just trying to soften up the garlic and the onions together. So maybe we can get some kind of smell going. So in the meantime, we're gonna dice up these 2 peppers. I'm gonna turn the heat down a little bit. We don't want any burning here. What we're going to do is, since I have this squash already cut up, we're gonna put our squash in. And what that's gonna do is our squash is gonna cook slowly so that by the time we add our other ingredients, it'll cook through and the squash will be tender. I want to make sure it doesn't get too hot and it doesn't overheat and I don't burn anything. And these stoves are a little temperamental when you're cooking outside. It depends on what size you cut them, and it depends on the cooking method. If you're cooking them, like say in an oven, right, in 30 minutes, I mean it'll cook in an oven in 30 minutes at like 350, 400, it'll cook real quick. Doing it on the stove, since we're not boiling it, like say if we were boiling it, it would get tender much faster. But we're more like sauteing it and cooking it slower, so it might take a little longer. And we'll just kind of take a fork or a knife and poke it and see if it's good. So what we're gonna do is add these peppers, and what we want to do is just remove the membrane and seeds. Not that it's hot, it's not that it's hot, it's just that it doesn't taste good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have a mixture of kale and collard. I think what I'm going to do is just leave out the collard because it's a little bit of a heartier veggie, and nobody wants to eat collards if they're not cooked through. So even though we have them available, I'm going to separate them. I'm not going to use them in this particular dish. We're just going to use the kale, and like he said, at the end is when we're going to add it, because we don't want it to, we still want it to be bright and shine through. And kale, of course, can be eaten raw as well. Most people think good chili doesn't have beans and it only has meat. Are you guys familiar with that? Have you heard about these chili rules, and you know, only good chili comes from Texas and stuff like that? Yeah, you've heard that? I've seen like knockdown debates over chili where people are like, there's no beans in it, and then people are like, yes, there is beans. So I don't know, you either have to like it or not, but most people I know like beans in their chili. What we're also going to do now is I'm going to use 2 of these green tomatoes, because these are part of what's here on the farm. Normally you can blanch these and take the skin off. We're not going to be blanching them today. We're going to use them as is. So they might make the chili a little rustic. We might have some skin. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of cut through. And these are really beautiful tomatoes, by the way. I don't know if you guys can see them, but they're really beautiful. Basically what we have in here right now is the squash. We have the green pepper, onion, garlic. I'm just now adding the green tomato, which will break down and become saucy as well. And our chili is trying to come together. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to cook off the tomato paste. People tend to do this step in sauces and chilies and stuff like that, because tomato paste kind of has a very tart, raw taste, and this kind of helps mellow it out a little bit. But it's needed because it helps thicken things up. And even now is a time that you can start adding your salt and pepper. So based on this, we're supposed to be adding salt and pepper to taste. So I'm going to start out small, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt per recipe. So 2 teaspoons. Okay? So we're doubling this up, so we're going to add 2. And this is just sea salt. And of course you can taste this at some point, and if it needs more or less, well, you know you can't remove salt. You can never take it out. So it's always better to start off slow. Like you said, you can't take it out. And pepper, who loves pepper? Who's a pepper fan? The paste is starting to break down. So it's starting to stick to the pot, which means you said it earlier about the caramelization, the sugars are starting to come out. So less of that raw taste is going to be there. Okay, so I'm adding the beans. And I'm gonna add some chicken broth to release the, sorry. I said chicken broth. I apologize. This is veggie broth. Veggie, okay? I said chicken because I eat chicken, but not today. So I'm gonna add a little bit, probably like a cup first, just to loosen up the bottom. Did you hear the sizzling stop? Yeah.
Is the broth a common ingredient in chili?
I'm sorry.
Is the broth a common ingredient in chili?
Well, you could use water, but water doesn't have taste. I mean, you could, you know, it's not terrible. You can use water, or you could use more. People use like tomato juice, or they like to rinse the can and add, you know, what's in the can. I mean, it's all about flavor, you know. So, I mean, you're not adding meat to this, so you want to kind of pack as much flavor into this as possible. So we're just going to add both cans here. These are whole tomatoes. So as this cooks, the tomatoes will break up a bit. You can press them down. You can use whole tomatoes, crushed tomatoes. What's another one? Yeah, chopped diced tomatoes. It just makes the chili a little bit more heartier. People like more, you know, chunkier things, and it'll break down as it cooks too. Okay, so now if you guys can see this, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have a nice color combo going on here, and we didn't even add the kale yet, but it looks really pretty so far. So we have like, and all I'm doing right now is I'm just breaking up the tomatoes with the side of the spoon, just breaking it up a little bit. So I'm gonna add the peppers, and I'm also gonna add the rest of the spices to actually make this chili a chili. We're gonna add, since we're doubling the recipe, it's 2 tablespoons, so we're gonna add 4.
Is that the same as cayenne, or they're different?
No, this is different. Chili powder is not the same as cayenne. Comes from the actual pepper and it's hot.
Okay.
Chili powder is spicy. It's not the same. You will see that the color changed. Like it was a red color, but then it got like this deep orangey brown color after adding the chili powder. Okay, so for the cumin, it's 1 tablespoon, so we're gonna double that up and use 2. Okay. We're about to test the squash to see if it's cooked through. Hopefully it will be. And if not, very soon it will be. Because we cut it into small cubes. So hopefully, with the simmering away that's going on. I was trying to get this chili really small, but if you get a piece, I guess you'll know how hot it is. But I'll only use 1 because I'm afraid to use 2. I don't want it to be hot. Then you guys can't enjoy it. It looks like the butternut squash has cooked through. I'm gonna try to poke one of them on the spoon. I guess that would be better. Let's see. It went through, but I think a little more time. But it did go, like the knife pierced through it. So it's no longer that tough to the bite texture. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball a tablespoon. Okay, I didn't want to put it in the spoon and then try to get it off the spoon. So that was a little sweetness. Who mentioned the sweetness? Okay, so we added a little sweetness. I probably should do it double, 2 and 2.
Why do you use agave, not like honey or something?
You definitely could use honey. It's just that we're using what we have here. You could even, I mean, turbinado sugar, a little brown sugar. I mean, whatever you wanted to, no sugar at all. I mean, it's up to you. It's just that, you know, you're trying to build flavor here. So whatever, I mean, even if you wanted to use, like he said, paprika or like a smoked paprika or something like that, you know, add that, you know. We're just trying to give it that chili taste, the chili dimension. So we started off with 2
Better
teaspoons.
than too salty.
Right. We start off with 2 teaspoons. And I mean, vegetables have their own flavor. And we're used to covering up foods, but we're supposed to enhance them and not cover them up. So the less salt, the better. But you also need salt. Have you guys ever watched those cooking shows? And they're just like, did you even put salt on this? Like, did you forget to salt? Because it's necessary. It brings out the flavor. So you definitely need salt, but you don't have to over salt anything. Okay, so we're just gonna rough chop this kind of fine. We're not gonna add the stems, even though the stems are baby stems, so they're not ridiculous.
So this kale is very young.
Yes, it is.
So if you were to use something that you find on the market, which is much older, at
Ugh.
what point would you add it in?
I would say the point in which I added the beans.
Okay, at the same time.
Yeah, or at least the point where I would say either the beans or the maybe 10 or 15 minutes before. It depends on how you want the kale. Like, do you want it green and pretty? We just want ours green and pretty.
Yeah.
We don't want it super cooked through. So because we want it green and pretty, we're adding it at the end. If you wanted it totally cooked through and wilted, I mean, if you could take a look at it right now, it looks done. And I just added the kale to it. So
It's very green.
it's green, it's beautiful. This is a money shot right here.
Yeah.
This is what they call the money shot. So there you have it. This is our honey nut, black bean, and kale chili with a tomato base. I hope you enjoy, and that's it.